Have you ever explored an abandoned building and felt like something was watching you? Welcome back to the channel. Tonight, we dive into the Forgotten Asylum, one of the most chilling urban exploration horror stories I've ever written. Before we enter, don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you love creepy, atmospheric horror with a psychological twist. They say some buildings remember, not with words or thoughts, but with they're thick enough to breathe in someone else's fear. I never believed in that. Not until I walked into Narrated Asylum. It started as a documentary project. I'd been working freelance as a photographer/filmmaker for a few years, capturing abandoned places, derelict structures, the bones of forgotten towns. My channel was picking up traction. People love decay, apparently, especially if it might be haunted. So when someone in the Urbex forums mentioned an old asylum in rural Vermont, I jumped. It wasn't on any current maps, not even Google Earth. The place had supposedly shut down in the early 1950s, and unlike most institutions of its kind, there were no records, no patient lists, no scandals, not even demolition plans. I thought it would be perfect. The drive took most of the day. Forest gave way to thin gravel roads, and eventually, even those turned into little more than muddy tracks through dying trees. By the time I reached the front gate, rusted, bent, and partially swallowed by overgrowth. The sun was slipping behind the mountains. I should have waited until morning, but I didn't drive 7 hours to shoot in daylight. The building loomed like something drawn in chalk and left to rot in the rain. 3 stories tall, with a collapsed roof on one side and a broken clock tower leaning like a drunk sailor. Windows stared back at me, shattered or missing entirely, and I couldn't help but feel they weren't just broken, they were hollow. I should have turned back right then. Instead, I hit record. My handheld camera blinked red. I narrated like always, voice calm, confident. October 22nd, Narrated Asylum. No formal records of its closure, no government claims on the land. Let's see what history left behind. I stepped inside. The smell was immediate. Not just mold or mildew. I was used to those, but something metallic, dry. Like old blood on rusted tools. My boots echoed down the front corridor. Paint curled from the walls in skin-like strips. The wallpaper bore faint floral patterns, just enough to remind me that people once lived here, or tried to. There were no signs of squatters. No graffiti, no trash, no makeshift bedding. That was rare. The silence had weight. I kept moving, documenting everything. The intake desk, still bolted to the floor. A rusted wheelchair with one missing wheel. Broken glass crunching underfoot in a day room still filled with light through cracked skylights. After an hour, the light faded. I switched to my headlamp. My camera flickered once, but the battery read full. I chalked it up to cheap gear and pressed on. That's when I found the children's ward. The door was half open, peeling yellow paint with a faded cartoon sun on it. Inside, the walls were still decorated, clouds, smiling stars, crude animals. But all of it was distorted, warped by time and mold. The cribs were metal, small, with peeling paint and bent bars. One had scratch marks on the inside. I panned my light over a doll in the corner. Its eyes were missing. Then I heard a sound. A soft click, like a marble hitting tile. I froze, clicked again, then rolled. Something small, round, moving. I turned my light. Nothing. The sound stopped. I should have said something into the camera, but my mouth had gone dry. My skin was ice. It felt like something had changed, not the room, but the air itself, like stepping into someone else's memory. I backed out, slowly, and returned to the hallway. The camera flickered again. I checked the feed, all static for the last 30 seconds. That had never happened before. I tried to play it off. Told myself it was interference. Old wiring, maybe, but the hallway was different. I swear I hadn't walked that far and I looked behind me. The children's ward door was gone. Just a wall. No markings, no paint, just peeling plaster. I stood there, heart pounding. Then the voice, very soft. Female, closed at IT, said, "Come see." Just that. No emotion, no echo. I spun around, light flailing over the walls. Nothing. I ran back the way I thought I came. But the door I entered through? Gone. Now it was a hallway. One I hadn't seen before. At this point, panic started to bubble up. I called out, first softly, then louder. No answer. I told myself to keep filming. That's what I always did when things got intense. Document it, keep the focus. The camera was like armor. I turned a corner. There was a room ahead. Door cracked open. Flickering light. A bulb. Still working? I pushed the door open and stepped inside. It was a therapy room, judging by the cracked chalkboard and the ring of chairs. There was something written on the board in dusty, gray letters. "We remember you." I didn't write that. I hadn't seen anyone else. There was a table in the corner with folders, old patient files. I opened one. Name: Henry Ashford. Date of admittance: 1949. Status: remains unresponsive. Believes he is not real. There were drawings inside, crude sketches of doors, endless hallways, spirals that led to nowhere. In one line written over and over in red pencil: "This place remembers. This place remembers. This place remembers." My head felt tight. My vision started to blur at the edges. I looked up. The chairs were no longer empty. There were figures in them. Still. Blurred. I dropped the folder. The camera fell from my hand. Then, darkness. When I woke up, the first thing I noticed was the sound. Not loud. In fact, almost too soft to hear. But there. A low murmur, like distant voices behind a wall, whispering just beyond comprehension. My flashlight was off. My camera was gone. I was lying on the cold tile floor of the same therapy room. I think. But now the chalkboard was blank. The chairs were empty again. And the folder I dropped, it wasn't on the ground. It was placed neatly back on the table, closed. I stood up too quickly and nearly fell again. My head throbbed. Time had passed. I could tell by the absence of daylight coming through the high windows. It was night now. Full night. I checked my watch. It blinked 1:14 a.m., but my phone still read 8:37 p.m. Battery dead. I know it was fully charged when I got here. I forced myself to breathe, to stay rational. The blackout could have been from stress, dehydration, maybe even mold exposure. But none of that explained why the layout of the building was different. I left the therapy room and turned right, back the way I thought I'd come. This time, the hallway opened into a ward I hadn't seen before. Room after room lined both sides, all with doors slightly ajar, as if left that way on purpose. Some rooms were empty. Some weren't. I saw a child's wheelchair overturned in a corner, its wheels slowly spinning. A gurney covered in what looked like dried flower petals. A patient's room with dozens of photos taped to the wall, all of the same man. Staring directly at the camera, in different lighting, different clothes, different ages. In every photo, his eyes had been scratched out. The air felt heavy. I started hearing things again. A soft knock here, a shuffle there. But it wasn't just random noise anymore. It felt responsive, like it was listening for me, reacting to me. Then I found the stairwell. It led down, much farther than I expected. 0.5 floors, maybe more. No labels, no exit signs, just ascending darkness. Logic told me not to go, but something else told me I didn't have a choice. At the bottom, the air changed. It was damp. The walls were lined with moisture, and the paint here was darker, as if scorched. I realized this wasn't on any blueprint I'd seen during my research. This level, if it even belonged to Marowak, had never been publicly listed. The hallway here was different too, lower ceiling, narrower walls. Each step echoed strangely, as though the space around me wasn't entirely solid. And then I heard a voice, soft, female, the same as before. You came back. Not angry, not happy, just stating a fact. I turned, flashlight trembling in my hand. Down the hallway, I saw her, just for a second. A woman in a nurse's uniform, 1940 style. White, with a red cross faded by time. Her face was pale, but not ghostly, more like wax. She didn't move. She just watched me, and then stepped backward through a door. Not walked. Stepped backward, as though rewinding herself. I ran after her. The room she entered was small, windowless, filled with old lockers and broken medical trays. But she was gone. Instead, on the far wall, someone had carved letters into the plaster. We don't leave. We don't leave. We don't leave. Over and over, again and again, deep enough to splinter the concrete. I turned to leave, and that's when I saw the camera.my camera sitting on a rusted table. I snatched it up. Checked the playback.my hands shook. There was a file, one I didn't remember recording. Timestamp 12:06 a.m. I hit play. The video was wrong. It showed me, standing in the hallway, alone, silent, staring at the wall. Then I raised my hand and slowly scratched something into the plaster. Same phrase, we don't leave. I watched myself complete it, then turned to the camera and smile. I paused the video, hard in my throat, because I don't remember doing that. I would never smile like that. Suddenly, the screen went black, and a new phrase appeared, white text on black. Thank you for helping us remember. Then static. The air felt thick. My breathing was shallow. I backed out of the room and turned down a new hallway. Desperation had started to override curiosity. All I wanted now was out. That's when I saw the map, posted on a wall, an old fire escape plan. I rushed over, scanning for a path to the exit. There, a stairwell. If I could find it, I could get back up, maybe break a window, get out. I followed the plan, turned left, past an old elevator shaft, its doors open like a mouth, down one more hallway. Yes, there it was, the stairwell door. I pulled it open and stared into the children's ward. The same warped paintings, the same cribs, same doll in the corner. Still eyeless, but now every crib was full, not with bodies, with lumps, wrapped in stained sheets. Still, too still. I stumbled back, shaking, and slammed the door. This building was shifting, turning in on itself. A maze. No, worse, a trap. Point one that knows you're trying to leave. I turned and ran. Hallway after hallway blurred. My footsteps grew frantic, until, at last, I saw something new. A room, wide open, lit, inside, a wall of mirrors, cracked, but still reflective. I entered. The room was circular, like an old group therapy chamber. I looked into the mirror and froze, because my reflection wasn't following me. I moved right. It moved left. I raised my hand. It didn't. It just stared. And then, with slow, awful clarity, it smiled and whispered, "You're part of it now." I stumbled back from the mirror, heart hammering so hard I could hear it in my ears. My reflection stayed still, grinning wider, like it was waiting for something. No, not something. Before I could blink, The glass fractured outward, a spider web of cracks radiating from where its hand pressed against the surface, except I hadn't moved. The thing in the mirror wasn't mimicking me anymore. It tapped the glass once, twice. Each tap echoed too loud, vibrating the floor, and with the third tap, the room around me began to change. The walls bled, not literally, but the paint peeled so fast it looked alive, curling back in strips, revealing names underneath. Hundreds of names. Scratched into the walls, into the floorboards, even into the ceiling. Men, women, children, all of them had been here. All of them had been forgotten. IRAN.NO plan. No direction, just blind, animal terror. Corridors twisted, defying geometry. Doors led back to where I'd started. Time became meaningless. My watch spun crazily, an impossible blur. At some point, seconds or hours later, I found myself outside the old cafeteria. Or what was left of it. The room was wrecked. Tables overturned. Trays rusted to the counters, but at the center stood a figure. The nurse, the same one from the hallway. This time, I saw her clearly. Her uniform was torn, bloodstained. Half her face was burned black, flesh melted like candle wax. But her eyes were intact, bright and inhumanly focused on me. I opened my mouth to speak, to plead, but she raised one finger to her lips. "Sh-ch-ch-ch-ch-ch," she whispered. Behind her, the walls began to shimmer, and from them the others emerged. Shapes, people. Or what was left of them. Dozens of forms. Some had faces, others not. Some dragged themselves on all fours, others floated inches above the ground, all of them converging toward me. The nurse stepped aside, a silent conductor letting her orchestra begin. I did the only thing I could think to do. I raised my camera. I snapped a picture. The flash exploded, and for a second, the entities recoiled, shrieking without sound. The light hurt them. Instinct took over. I ran through the gap they'd made, sprinting down a new hall. This one I didn't recognize. It sloped upward. Hope flickered. Maybe, just maybe, this was a way out. The hallway narrowed the higher I climbed, the air growing colder with every step. Frost formed on the walls. My breath steamed in front of me, and then I saw it. A door. Heavy. Metal. Unmarked. Slightly open. Beyond it, night air. Stars. Freedom. I charged forward, throwing my weight into the door, and it slammed shut in my face, hard enough to knock me sprawling backward. When I looked up, it was standing there. Not the nurse, not the mirror thing, something else. A figure made entirely of burnt paper and ash, held together by invisible threads. Its face was an impossible collage of different faces, men, women, children, all flickering and merging like a reel of broken film. It spoke in a voice that wasn't one voice at all, but many layered together. You were supposed to forget. You were supposed to leave us here. Why did you come back? I couldn't speak. Couldn't even move. The thing drifted closer. It held out its hand. And for one terrible second, I understood. It didn't want to kill me. It wanted me to stay. To be part of it. Another name on the wall. Another face in the mirror. Another memory for the asylum to digest. No. I fought it. I pulled every ounce of strength I had left and flashed the camera again. The burst of light blew a hole through the figure's chest, scattering ash and fragments of burnt paper. It screamed, not with a sound, but with a pressure that made my teeth ache. I shoved the door with everything I had, wedging it open just enough to slip through. And then I was outside. I didn't stop running until I reached the tree lane, not even when the screams faded behind me, not even when the asylum was lost to the night. Not even when the cold air cut my lungs raw. I ran until I collapsed face first into the wet grass, beneath a sky full of dead, uncaring stars. Only then did I look back. The asylum sat dark and silent, a tomb for memory, a trap waiting for the next curious fool. Waiting patiently. For someone else. For someone like you. Weeks have passed since that night. Or maybe it's been longer. Time feels strange now. Elastic. Slippery. Some days stretch into endless gray. Others snap by in a blink. I tell myself it's just trauma, a bad memory, a wound that needs time to heal. But deep down, I know better. The asylum didn't let me go. Not really. At first, it was small things, I would catch glimpses of movement in mirrors, a shadow passing where there was no one. Reflections that didn't match my actions exactly, a half second too slow, or smiling when I wasn't. I stopped looking into mirrors altogether, taped over everyone in my apartment, smashed my bathroom mirror with a hammer. Still, I could feel it, watching. Then came the dreams. I dream of the asylum now almost every night, but it's different. It's not decayed anymore. It's alive. The halls are polished. Lights hum overhead. Doctors walk the corridors, faces blank as porcelain masks. Nurses push carts with bodies strapped to them, twitching beneath white sheets. And always, there's a room waiting for me. A padded cell with my name scrawled across the door and something dark and wet. I wake up gasping, sweat-soaked, fingernails bloody from clawing at the bed sheets. But the worst part? Sometimes when I wake, I can still hear the intercom buzzing, a cheerful voice announcing, "All patients, please report for your scheduled assimilation." I moved apartments, changed cities, deleted all my urban exploration videos. Nothing helped. The thing inside me came along for the ride. It's subtle. At first, I start forgetting things, names, faces, appointments. Sometimes entire days slip by without memory. Friends stop calling. Family grows distant. They say I seem different. Hollow. I try to explain, but the words rot in my mouth. No one believes me. No one ever will. That's the asylum's true trick. It isolates you, makes you question yourself, peels you apart, layer by layer, until there's nothing left but a shape in the mirror. A shape that isn't you anymore. Tonight, it's worse than usual. Tonight, the lights keep flickering. The apartment smells faintly of disinfectant and old blood. And when I peeled the tape off my bathroom mirror, just for a second, just to check, I saw it clearly. Standing behind me, the nurse. She smiled, her teeth black with rot, and whispered, "Home, sweet home." I'm writing this now while I still can, while some part of me still remembers who I am. Soon, I won't. Soon, there will be nothing left but another patient in that endless, echoing place, waiting for the next curious soul. Maybe that's you. Maybe you'll hear about the asylum someday. Maybe you'll get it in your head that you can handle it, that you're different, that you're stronger. You'll want to see it for yourself. You'll step through its broken doors. You'll feel the weight of all those forgotten names pressing down on you. And when you try to leave, you'll realize something terrible. You were always meant to stay. You just didn't know it yet. If this story gave you chills, let me know in the comments below. Have you ever been somewhere abandoned that just felt wrong? Don't forget to share this urban exploration horror with your horror-loving friends. And hit subscribe for more immersive first-person horror stories like the Forgotten Asylum. Until next time, stay curious, but never go alone.